أنا مروة بن حليم. I'm an artist and a curator, and thank you to فضاء عدسي and Lentil Space for allowing me to cook you guys something. For the last while, I've been doing a lot of work to do with food and like food history, but also like food in relation to like micro and macro issues within our society, and worked on collaborations with amazing artists and things like that. But for the last year, I've been thinking a lot about Libyan culinary cuisine. I'm Libyan. My parents are both Libyan, but I've been born and raised in Cairo. Oh, and you're in my studio right now. And so I decided today to make with you guys a Libyan soup. ويعني في حكايات their story. I'm gonna flip from Arabic to English. I hope that's okay. And hope whoever translates doesn't hate me. Okay. I think maybe we can start with the basic thing. We have to prepare to be able to make this, which is this tomato like puree thing. So we're making soup, Libyan soup. And so I got a lot of tomatoes. I'm gonna like put them in water and have it boil. And then we're gonna peel them and then so that we can prepare it. But I'm gonna just put the water on first. My kitchen is very tiny. Bear with me. أعمل إيه؟ مية. Oh, might actually add some. Okay. فوال المية بتغلي فأنا الريسبي دي it's from my mother and my grandmother, and so it's a very like home, yeah, it's my family. And in Libyan cuisine, what I've realized through this research I'm doing, so I'm really doing this research on the history of Libyan cuisine, also looking at the history of the recipes and where they come from, looking at the political and social history of the country as well throughout the food, is that honestly there is no recipe that is truly it. Not حتى زي other recipes where it's like, oh, you're making bechamel فهو the ingredients 1, 2, 3, this is the bechamel وخلاص. لا, in Libyan cuisine generally almost everything can be tweaked and played with depending on the person that's cooking it, more so than I've seen somewhere else. But for example, this like, so I bought some cookbooks, but when I was looking into this recipe and my mom's own recipe, so I was like, okay, how do they call it? So a lot of people call it شوربة ليبية, Libyan soup. In my family we call it شوربة حمراء, which is red soup, because it's the red soup. And usually in gatherings أو بيبقى في عزومة أو كده, they do like this red soup and white soup, and white soup is usually like cream, like a cream-based soup, or like the senhouse food, so orzo. And this one has orzo. But anyway, so it's like, I think you can see it. Soup, but also this one, for this one, it has a lot of ingredients that my mother, and if it doesn't have like hummus inside it, it has yeah, they use salmon, not zait, stuff like that. This is from نجاة المغربي. ده اسمه ماء وملح. بعدين دي بقى this is a really interesting book because it's like طعام أهل البادية والريف والمدينة and by this lady called أم العز سيمان العقيلي. And so hers is more like my grandmother and my mother's recipe. My grandmother left. So you can see kind of maybe what our dish is gonna look like. This is it. So this is the شوربة. And so the recipe has like نصف كيلو لحمة, which is, yeah, I can show you here. We have 2 screens. And then زيت وسمن, so we're gonna use زيت, not some. بصلة, it's onion, so I have onion. Got an onion. And then طماطم أخضر. We're not using طماطم أخضر. So my mom, they use this pureed tomato. There's fresh tomato, but it's pureed. And then معدنوس, which is part like بقدونس in Egyptian Arabic. I always get confused with English. I chopped it up, but I also have it here so you can see it. And then نعناع ناشف يعني ليمون, حبوب شوربة أو شعرية. So حبوب شوربة قصدهم بيها اللي هو الأورزو. So that's we're gonna use that. And then there's other things. منهم حاجة اسمها حريرات ليبية, which I'll explain later, which is like spicy. Okay, so water is good to go. Small kitchen, switches, kind of situation. الصغيرة. صح. I'm just, since this hot water, I'm going to show you there. Basically, I'm just putting hot water and then washed tomatoes. I'm just going to put a few of them. This thing, the green parts. So I'm just going to put them in the water عشان to be able to peel them. Water. I put too much water. But we'll remove the tomatoes for now. Okay. ماشي. So what we're gonna do till the tomato يعمل, and I'm gonna chop the onions. They need to be very tiny, tiny, tiny chops. And so we're gonna chop the onion. وبعدين after we chop the onion, how we're gonna cook it is إنه we cook the onion first. نخليها like, you know, brown it up a little, but not like, يعني caramelize it. And then we put lahma, which in, I don't know what the cut of meat is. I feel like I'm saying I don't know a lot, but it's kebab halla, and it's chopped in tiny, tiny, tiny little squares. So you don't want in your soup to have like really big chunks of meat. What's nice about the soup is basically it's like one big meal, and it is a one pot situation. For those that have made one pot so cool, you know, westernized that shit. We've done it a long time ago. But anyway, okay, so peel the onion, wash the onion. Okay, so it's chopping onions. I don't think you can see me chop the onions, but I am chopping onions. Maybe I go, wait, can you see me chop onions? Okay. So I really love Libyan soup because it just reminds me of my grandma. It's passed away recently. But also because يعني فيها كل حاجة. It has now I feel fucking show situation. Yeah, it has everything. It has carbohydrates, it has your meat, it has your fats, it has your somewhat of the vegetables with the tomato. I mean, you can also add, I guess, more vegetables since you can do whatever you want. Just half an onion, a chopped onion. We are in my studio and I don't have a lot of, I love this kitchen. It's a tiny kitchen. It does what it needs to do. But it is very tiny and we only have one rain situation. So we're gonna take it one step at a time. Maybe it's for us with this whole, capitalistic situation we live in. We'll take it one step at a time, and it is Ramadan, and now I am crying. Chopped onion, yay! So you don't really need to chop much else for this. Oh, parsley, and I'm not gonna chop any because okay. So before I did this a few days ago, I was like, Mom, I'm gonna do this thing for Lentil Space. I really need your help going through, going through شوربة before. And with total disclaimer, I need to say that this is my first time actually making it all on my own. So I generally would help my mother make it, help my grandmother make it, like be their assistant, but I've never really made it. And I think it's good that I'm making it, or I stuck to the plan of making it. But when I told her and I need to make it, she's like, oh, you gotta practice. I was like, I don't have time to sit and practice and to make a meal, and then I don't know who's gonna eat it. But then I'm gonna make it here all on my own, and then I don't know who's gonna eat it. I mean, I'm gonna eat it, but I can't make one and then make one the next day. It's too much. So she's like, خلاص. So I woke up this morning and she lovingly chopped parsley for me to prepare my مش parsley بقدونس. I think it's parsley يعني. But to prepare it for me for this thing. But I also had bought some. Because I feel like we need to use hers because it's nice to have some part of what labor that she gave me in here. So I'm gonna just use that and not chop up any of it. بس قلت اجيب البقدونس عشان تشوفوه. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of food for me and food history for me, starting to make me cry, is really tied to my family. Especially to my mother and my grandmother, and I think when it comes to Libyan cuisine in general, it's tied to home, and home as a space of comfort, sometimes a space of turmoil. This when looking at Libyan history, it feels like I'm looking through all these memories of me and my grandmother and me and my mother and them feeding me really amazing food, and keeping the sense of, I don't know, but the identity in regards to my heritage in a space that I live in Egypt. It's not that far away from Libya, but it is very different. And there's something about going home, eating Libyan food that consistently throughout my childhood, consistently till now, it's just kind of the remnants of my ancestry and my heritage and integrated into my day-to-day. And it's no matter what, you are Libyan, so just and that is shown through the food. And I think that's sparked my interest in figuring out why that people don't know about Libyan food, even though it's super versatile and has amazing things in it, and has an amazing way of a story that there's a story that I was in Libya a week ago for research for this thing, and كانوا يقولوا لي إن هو I knew that in Libya they're very good at finding ways to preserve things. So preserving like meats, preserving tomatoes and things, but I didn't know the way that it's called جديد, and it's like this type of meat that they chop up تبقى ما يبقى فيه ذبح كتير في العيد وكده, and then they actually salt it and they use the sun to dehydrate it, and there's a lot of use of the environment in general, and then they put it in like ghee or olive oil for a long time, and usually it's ghee, and throughout the year they would eat from it, but also they would do the same thing with like cow intestines and like different, I think maybe it's ready for us to peel. I'm gonna find out now. Yeah, so cow intestines, and they do this with tomatoes. So apparently, because people used to eat things seasonal, right? Not like now or like blah blah blah. So they would take a lot of the tomatoes and they would they would put it in the sun and also have it dried and all these things, which I think was really interesting. It was told to me by this lady that is a very well-known ceremonial cook, and she cooks for all these big weddings and ceremonies. And what I thought was interesting is she said that people used to do this even before the Italian occupation and of Libya, which begs the question of the tomato sauce that is in Libya now, which is not it's not like the Italian tomato sauce, but it's also, there's a lot of like people asking me while I'm starting this research, like, oh, did we take spaghetti from the Italians? Did we take tomato from the sauce from the Italians? Because of us being a country that's really was for many years under their rule. So yeah, turns out we already have a relation with tomatoes, a long-standing one, before the Italians. Think that the tomatoes are all done. So I'm sorry. My fingers are going to unfortunately hurt from this situation. It's okay. So while I peel these, because we don't need them right now, I'm gonna remove this off the heat. We can reuse this water later for the soup, so please don't throw this water away. And then we can start with the actual new dish, and I can, start with the whole thing. So first things first, I'm gonna get zait. I mean, you can use whatever you want, topic, chef's like tapia, whatever. Honestly, I don't know how to tell you how much to put, but just enough to cover the bottom and also like cover a little, because you want the onions. Yeah, you don't want the onions to be like, yeah, you want them covered. So it's very. So onions that we chopped, okay. I'm just gonna literally have the. I have this thing on the highest thing because this is electric and that's the only way it functions. Unfortunately, it doesn't really know the idea of a high and low. So I'm just, I have it on like the highest thing. But if you're on an actual stove, like you want medium heat, مش عالي قوي يعني عشان don't burn your shit. Good. Yay. Probably trigger is passing. So maybe I can show you them. So I have the onions in there. So I'm gonna let them be. And I'm gonna get my blender. Go into the blender. And I'm gonna chop these tomatoes that I have peeled. Maybe this is not the smartest thing for your skin. Okay, what else? Oh, so I had this question. What did Libyans used to have for breakfast? Actually, my whole family, the ones that even live in Libya, they eat like breakfast that's very either European or they eat Egyptian food. I'm like, what is it that people used to eat? And apparently, so Libya does have a good history with like olive oil and has a lot of olive oil. That's not very known, but Libyans love olive oil and believe in the magic of olive oil. But yeah, so they used to just have olive oil and something called sharmuda. And I'm gonna try, I think I have enough. I don't know if I have enough onion, but if I do, I might make it. But basically, sharmuda is like the salad that's onions, tomatoes, super spicy peppers. I don't put the peppers because I can't deal with the spicy. Salt and olive oil. A shit ton of olive oil. And so that's what they would have for breakfast, right? I mean, according to this cook that's like around, she's probably in the end of her 70s, beginning of the 80s. So she's talking about her parents also and what they used to eat. So the onions are getting soft. What else can I talk to them about? Maybe think about. Another thing in the كان في حكاية عن واحدة اسمها الشيخ I think. Apparently there's like this folk tale about a certain Libyan meal that there's this in this Eid, if the kids didn't eat, you know that whole story of like you don't eat, something's gonna come eat you or whatever. But this story was that if you didn't eat, Shasha is gonna like rumble your tummy because it's so hungry, so it's gonna keep rumbling your tummy and then it's gonna hurt your tummy. And I guess it's just the way to say, you know, if you're hungry, it's into your tummy. But then there's a meal that was developed on this lovely idea. So this like folk tale. Okay, so technology. You know, put this here. And then so concentrate on this. So I'm flipping it a lot, but I like to, and because I just have to, or you should. And it's getting soft. Okay. I will show you once I have the. It's gonna be loud, so bear with me. Okay, and I think we're good. Tomatoes are good. So it's like super runny. Tomato sauce. Peeled tomatoes. Okay, and then now I'm gonna take the meat that I have. I'm gonna show you because they're like the meat is very tiny chopped, and I have it in this bag because it was wasn't but like super tiny pieces of meat that I shall wash and then we shall push into the I think I'm gonna have to the bigger one. I didn't realize how much the meat is. Oh, maybe not the smartest. Should have tried started with the bigger one, but it is what it is. Okay, here we go. It's getting back on beats. It's super caramelizing. I want to show you guys. Yeah, show you here. But I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Can you see? Super caramel. Maybe you can't really see that one. And soft and like golden brown kind of. بعدين هنحط اللحمة. Okay. And then okay, فاحنا عايزين the meat and the onions together to like love each other and yes, make beautiful make very beautiful like we eat babies or sauce. I'm just gonna cover it. This. And then yeah. Okay. What else can I tell you about? While we wait for this, I have to put this one. What can I talk about? فهم they used to eat the sharmuda for breakfast. This is something they used to do. حريرات. So this is حريرات ليبية. This powder. And basically it's baharat, which is like Libyan spices. And it has like so many different spices to it. So while I was in Libya, my aunt took me to these ladies that there's في مطاحن, and you can buy the spices from the souq of the spices, but you actually go buy حريرات from, like you can buy it from the supermarket, but mostly people buy it from other women or from these like young local. We went to these women that my aunt's friends that also have, they make their own spice blend. فهو it has like بهارات has like حريرات has كركم, حبهان, bay leaf I think in it. It has like all these different, like it smells different than the normal Egyptian spices or 7 spices or like even like the ones you find in the US or Europe, the spice blends. It's a very specific spice blend. And you can either get it as in components, so you get the components on their own or blend or powdered on their own and you make your own brand, or they make their own blend for the soup. Now this is حريرات for شوربة ليبية, for specifically this soup. This soup or and you can use it in other soups, but it's specifically for the soup. And yep, so that's part of it. And then and it's like super flavorful and super amazing. I think I don't have pictures of the space because I don't know, you can definitely not smell it, but it smells really good. So anyway, I'm just gonna return this in the freezer since we're not moving it. So I made around like I think there are like 4 tomatoes. Yeah, so we're gonna use half of this because this is a lot. Okay, so the meat, it's browned on certain parts of it, so a few parts that are not. But now we're gonna leave it to, so basically you don't want it to like cook. You don't want it to completely cook, but you want it to completely brown. So it looks kind of like it's cooked, but حتى لو قعدت في الشوربة أكتر, it's fine. Because it will stay in the sugar for a long time after. So according to what I have written here. And then we're gonna add the baqdunus and tomato. Okay. What else can we do? So I really like this book, طبخ الليبي, because Maybe I can show you some pictures of some like really cool. So we make something في ليبيا اسمها التنور, خبز التنور. And I'm trying to figure out if you know the, like, I mean, it's not like naan, but it has the similarities of naan. And there is similarities from مصر في عيش اللي هو بيبقى في الفرن من جوه كده, because like they do it inside the oven يعني من جوه وبعدين yeah like I showed you, so it's like really cool. I'm trying to figure out the basis of that. And then they do something, they do many other things. This is what I was telling you about the Jadid. Sorry, if you don't eat meat, I am apologizing for these images, but they are very beautiful. But this is Jadid. So they take the meat and they spice it and they hang it to dry, like literally hang it to dry. And it's in pieces. It's not like a whole thing like pastrami or basturma or pureed meat where it's like a block. It's like pieces. It's chopped up and it's like the pieces of the meat. And so they put melh, bzar is the spices, and zait. And you can put lahm daghil, ibil, whatever, like any kind of meat, red meat. And then yeah, they spice it and then when they cook it, so they spice it and they keep it on container jars of like it and there's zait, zait. And then when you cook it here, so like for example, I can make this, not the soup, but like if you make a Libyan sauce, for example, with macarona, like mbakbka, people know a lot about it. It's like the macaroni that's like stewed in the red sauce. You can take the onions and then you can put the jadid. But you're gonna have to keep it a lot longer so that all the juices come out and that the meat, because it's really tough because of how it's been dried, so that it loosens up a little and that it's not as tough. But all these like spices and all the meat juice and everything, it's so flavorful and it makes the whole meal like something completely different. But it's also super fatty, so you know, you've got that going too. Okay, so this I didn't know about first, so we're learning that we're doing this. It's called شحم الغاوي, and it's like wait, I did learn about this. So this is actually just meat, like cow fat, and they grind it up and up and up until they make it into these bowls. And then these bowls are like also dehydrated in a certain way. And then they're cooked. And then you eat them as if they're like, you know, meatballs, but they're fat balls. Too much fat. Okay, let's check on this thing. We can go back to the look. Okay, wow. This looks amazing and smells amazing. And the meat has created its own juice. I'm gonna try to see if I can give it to you. A little bit, okay. So it's created its own juices. It's really flavorful, like smells really flavorful. And we're just gonna have to keep going. So a lot of the whole Libyan soup thing is just, a lot of Libyan is about waiting. It really is just, it takes a long time and it's just about letting things stew. And I think that's kind of lovely to keep things to simmer and stew and take their time and like not, you don't have to rush it and then it bring out what it needs to bring out. Okay, let's see what else is in here. فده يعني اللحمة sorry, الشحم اللحم, which is like the meat, meat fat from meat, from cows and things like that. Yeah, so it's really intense. I mean, it's just like they take the fat and then make it into fat balls and then they keep it and it's dehydrated, so it stays for a long time. So مقطع. So this is okay. This is really interesting. So the مقطع apparently has. So I'm going to show you. It's like macaroni, but it's not macaroni. So it looks like pasta, but it is not pasta. It does not have the same components because it also doesn't have any eggs in it. So it has like the shahm gaddad, which we just saw, the like I mean, if you want to, I'm rather just the shahm gaddad if you want to, but it has like this shahm and flour, either sha'ir or qamh, so wheat or barley, and water, and and then fat, and then salt and baharat, and then after that you can have onions and tomato, whatever. But basically you create this dough and then you make it into this, like on this roll, you make it really thin. This dough is just literally just water and flour, and then you chop it up into these chops, and then you make like this. That's how it looks like. And then they make it, of course, with this tomato sauce. A lot of things happen with tomato sauce. I mean, that's my thinking why, like, this is pre-Italian. I read, so this is pre-Italian, but my belief that the tomato sauce also was there. It's just something changed about the way they cook it when they had macaroni introduced. This is another soup called haser. I really love this one. It's really thick and it's like thick tomato soup. Let's check in on her. Okay, I think our meat is for our next step, which is just meat, بقدونس. So we're gonna add the بقدونس. The greens. And then we're gonna add the tomato. So I'm just gonna eye it, and then maybe I'll write you guys the recipe like how much it actually. I'm just gonna put the whole thing. So I think these were for medium-ish. Like there was one tiny one, not tiny, but medium-ish tomatoes, and I put all of it. And I'll show you a view how this looks like. Kind of, you can see, maybe. You'll see it later. Basically. And then, yet again, we let it boil. So, leave it again, and it just keeps going, and so on. And we wait for it. Okay. So this is batata batna. And I know you can see clips, but batata batna is basically, if you can see here, it's potatoes that are stuffed in the middle with meat and only like half of the potato. And then they're fried to deliciousness. And this was, and is known as a Jewish Libyan dish that was invented pre-Ottoman or like during. And it's very famous and very important, and it's like it and something called haraini, which I'm gonna try to find, are both like really kind of really important. Yeah, let me try to find the Haraim, because Haraim is also great. Oh, I have a whole page for Libyan. Okay, this is only one of like so many other books, but this is one of the best because it's actually almost all originally Libyan. The other ones have so many Italian recipes in them. But this is Shay Lakhdar. So we like to boil our green tea till no tomorrow. Like as if there is, yeah, mafish. I can know it's like, you know, a whole thing. And it's like tea, water. Usually you can have it salt, sugary, non-sugary. And they boil hell out of it. So it's like really kind of gets dark. And then when they're serving this, when you're serving this tea, a little portion of it's taken away and it's like judged. And usually you wouldn't judge it. Usually it's like you have these like pots. And so they would serve by going like super high up, and like the tea, by the time it goes down, it's cooled down and also creates this foam. But now they don't do that. They want it super hot, and they don't do this whole thing. They come out with it served. So they have these like water, like bottles, like plastic water bottles that have really little amount of tea in it, and they zhuzh it like crazy. So it creates foam, and then they like spoon the foam on the tea in ceremonies. It's really quite interesting. How these like traditions that were based on a certain idea. So this, the reason why they would go up is to make sure that the air flows within it, it cools down, and all these things when they're like when you're serving tea. But now it's like an actual aesthetic thing that if the tea doesn't come out with all this like, you know, foaminess, then it's not like properly made, or like it doesn't look as good. I'm gonna take this parsley away. I feel bad for the parsley. Check on the soup. Ooh. Yes. Very dense, even. Which is great. So still, when you think it's steamed enough, keep it more. That's like my mom's rule when it comes to this stuff. It's like, ما تستعجليش. خليها تقعد. تستعجليش. Keep it. Let it longer. Just gonna let it be. Okay. Indeed, we've gone through it, like Libyan food lesson. We went through it. Right, there's some things in here that I don't think I've ever had, and things that I've had that I don't remember. Okay, so this is a bit sad and happy for me, but it's like they're explaining how to make cheese. And so a lot of households in Libya used to, not anymore, but used to. So like my mother remembers her mother, my grandmother, or my grandmother used to tell me a lot of stories about of the fact that she used to make cheese. My grandmother was a very big part of why I'm doing this project, and she was a very big part of the process of making it possible to make this work, like to look through this history and start looking at this history and my interest in it, and then and my interest into way, how Libyan cuisine is in relation to Libyan ceremonies and Libyan deaths and funerals and etc. But then once I got the grant to do this project, my grandmother passed away, which is very, very bittersweet. But she is with me. She's just in a very different way. But yeah, so طريقة الجبنة. So she used to tell me, like here, it's just like كمية الجبنة, like milk and like how to make it, and like, you know, the bacteria to make it, blah blah blah. But she used to tell me that my grandfather used to get her the bacteria to make milk into cheese, like the not bacteria, I'm guessing it's like yeasty you know, the thing that makes the cheese. And I used to come from Italy, and she only knows this one type that used to come from Italy. And what I realized when I was there last time is that honestly, a lot of the agricultural and the food landscape has changed because of this importing policy that like they import everything because they can, but also the prices are high. But also the agricultural kind of development has never really had that big push. Now, I hope that throughout this research, my understanding changes and that I find this. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, cheese is cheese. It's cheese. So let's see this part. Oh my God, last of life. Okay, I think this is okay. So it's been boiling for a while. I'm guessing like nearly 5-7 minutes now, and maybe more, so that I haven't stopped talking. And so now what we're gonna do is that it's reached the part. I'm gonna add the tomato paste, and then I'm adding the soup spices. So I just have a non-branded tomato paste, but it's just any brand tomato paste. Salt, lots of salt. And I need put two spoons and then just leave it in it. So the consistency should get like, you know, it's soupy-ish. It's like more, it's less soupy and more, it's, I don't know, it's not as soupy, yeah, but it can be. That the meat to sauce ratio is that there's a lot more meat. Now I'm just gonna add 1 spoon of the spices. So 1 small tablespoon. I'm gonna try to find what the spices are exactly and write them. It is more pretty dark. And then I'm gonna add the salt. I might have put. Okay, so I'm supposed to let it boil a little bit. The lower, simmer it down. But I think maybe it's time to put. Okay, I did put like 3 spoons because I want it to be a bit more red. So it's like, I guess you gotta see the color. Okay, and then let it just boil a little bit, any little bit more, and then we're gonna add. Okay, okay, let's see. So we just did is we added the tomato paste, and then we added the harairat, and we're letting it like simmer a bit more. So in every step you add, just let it be for a little bit. And I turned it down a little. Hopefully this electric thing will understand me. And then you add like the water, so that becomes soupy. And then after you add the water and becomes soupy, then we're gonna add the orzo. So many steps. We add the orzo. And then when we're done, we can add some more baqdonis if we want. And then we add khalas, just like baqdonis for just like, you know, flavor in the end or show in the end, you know. And then it's ready to serve. Once the orzo is cooked, it's ready to serve. When you come to serve it, okay, so this is what my family does. They bring the pot that they're serving in. So let's say it's my pot I'm serving in. And I put like dried mint at the bottom and half a lemon. I squeeze it on the bottom. And then I pour the soup on it. And then, yeah, that's it. And then you serve it like this. Some people put the dried mint on top, but dried mint is important in this situation. And it has to happen at the end, the final stage, like right before eating it. Okay. I think it's... I'm concerned. I need to simmer a little bit more, I think. Let it simmer tiny bit more. And then we can, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna come back to the book. Ooh, okay, this is nice. Okay, brak. So that's what brak is. Brak is the same as in any other thing. Mahshi, vine leaves, this whole idea of rolling shit into a paper, right? And the paper is a leaf, but we call it brak. And we put very different things in it than other people. So we put meat in it, and we put rice, and onions, and madanous, which I think is salam. I think it's cilantro. I need to check. And kusbara. Wait, kusbara is coriander. Yes. And shabat, which is dill. Na'na, which is mint. And then sal. I don't know if I can have a name for sal in English, but sal is like, I'm not sure. And then طماطم خضراء. طماطم معجون. So طماطم معجون here means like tomato paste. طماطم خضراء means like tomato, just pieces of tomato, right? Also, you know what we did in the tomato here? Not everyone does that. So when we did tomato with peeling tomato and putting it as a pasty, is my grandma and mama thing. Other people put tomato as in like pieces of tomato, but generally try to not put the skin in. But yeah, not everyone does the tomato. Like for example, here in this one, she doesn't put tomato into the thing. Like which is like what we're doing, right? So she puts, yeah, she just puts tomato paste. She doesn't put tomato. Okay, back to the brak because it's important. So this is the rolling of the brak. This one. I have another book that has much prettier images, but I don't have it with me right now. And then they make it in you can make it in this thing, or you can حلة. That's but yeah. It's not rolled like it's not rolled like the vine leaves الفايقين صغيرين, okay? And in Egypt now there's the cute vine leaves that are this tiny. It's like, oh, they're not like big. They're like the fashionable thing. These are thick. Like they're rolled, but they're rolled thick. They're not rolled thin. We're like, we got no time for this. We want everything in our brak. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't watch. Okay. Let's see. All right. I think it's time for us to add the water. So remember, I saved my water from the tomato. So I shall place this water here. And it's not enough. So we're gonna take some water from the kettle. And the reason why it's not enough is because we're gonna have to either way add water, because then we have to have the orzo, and the orzo eats the water out. So I'm guessing I put like 2 cups, no, maybe more. A little bit less than a liter of water. So maybe 800 milligrams of water. That's what I would say I put. And now it's very soupy. Oh no. Okay, let's try to show you how it looks like. Kind of. Can you see? Maybe here. You can't see it here. Like, yeah. This. And then we shall leave it to boil. It needs to boil again. I'm just gonna clear things out a little bit so that there's a lot of waiting in this kitchen. Yeah, I shall deal with the dishes later. Okay, back to our handy book. What else do we have here that I can show you so you know all about Libyan cuisine? So people don't tell me it's just macaroni and tomato sauce. Shalmuna, that's the one I was talking to you about. Look what it looks like. It is pretty. Maybe not in this picture, but it is pretty and very, very tasty. And yes, you can have cucumbers in it if you want to, but generally you should not. It is tomato and onions and olive oil. And sometimes peppers if you really wanna, you know, go there with your taste buds. Okay, so this is nice to talk about. So there's couscous. I mean, I guess I don't know how many people know couscous, but there's couscous. In Libya, the couscous is with red sauce. It's not sweet, it is sour. And generally it's made with like, maybe I think the first, I have a whole book about just couscous. But like, yeah, you can see it here. It has, this is couscous بالبصلة واللحمة. I think that's what it's like. Okay, بصلة is basal, or like onions, and it has ads in it. It has hummus and carrots and potatoes and meat. And so you cook the couscous on like a double stove, so the water is at the bottom, the couscous at the top, it's steamed. And on its own, you make the sauce, which also has the spices that we used here, and has like, it's really lovely caramelized, like onions, hummus. It has super wonderful, what's it called? It has, yeah, and then it has the different vegetables that have been cooked as big pieces in the like hummus and in the sauce and the red sauce, and it has the meat also in the sauce, and then they serve it by this like really big dish, and they put the couscous, and then they segli, so like basically like watering it with the red sauce, with just the sauce, and you just like water it with sauce, and then you water it, you put the onions and the hummus, you spread it, and then you put the meat in the middle, and then you put the vegetables, and it's like a dish. And generally in ceremonies or in events or things, traditionally you don't have each of your own little plate. It's like the big plate, and each person has a spoon, and you just eat from this like dish all together. And this happens in like weddings and like, you know, like things, gatherings that are like social gatherings. But yeah, so Benghazi, where my family, a lot of them are from, is more with the meat, right? But Tripoli, although they're both on the like considered sea cities on the Mediterranean, but Tripoli has couscous بالحوت more, and other parts they're like closer to Morocco, Tunis, have that. And so here's couscous بالحوت, and حوت means fish. So this is like couscous, and then they have the fish, and sometimes the fish is fried when it's put on it. Sometimes the fish is made in sauce as well and it's put on it. There's different ways. But I think it's very interesting that this country is divided. So like from the border with Tunis all the way to like kind of Tripoli a little bit after is couscous oriented. And then from there you go to Benghazi, and all the way to Egypt is more rice oriented, which is something that I am trying to figure out why within the research. So if you know, you let me know, you know, help a girl out. Yeah, so they have rice with taqliya, so the same sauce on it, but it's rice. And for the vegetarians out there, we finally have something vegetarian other than the shamula, which is ajja. And ajja is like, I guess there is ajja in ajja, they call it in Egypt. I don't know if any other Arab countries have ajja, but it's basically like so many vegetables with this like together with like an egg and other things, and then it's put in the oven, and it's a really beautiful like soft. It's like a pie, not a pie. It's like vegetable brownies, not the chocolate, but the vegetables. I guess that's how I can call it. So yay, what? I'm gonna move this camera for a second and then come put you back, but I want you to see. Here we go. So this is it simmering. You gotta leave it to simmer, and it's totally fine that it has like dual color, right? It's like, yeah, perfect this way. I'll take you back. Alrighty, and then what else am I gonna tell you about? I mean, filfil mahshi is something that we find everywhere. It's just the difference is what we put inside, and we like putting meat in almost everything. It's like we like killing animals. I'm sorry, but yeah. So meat everywhere, and oh, this yes, tabahij. Tabahij is maybe the first thing I ever decided to make on my own, and that's because you like literally fry everything, and that's how you make it. And it does. It's like eggplant, tomatoes. You can have a little bit of tomatoes. It's tomato sauce, and why does she have a potato picture here? I mean, not a lot of people put zucchini, so I don't know why she has zucchini. But kosa. My mother doesn't. This is the thing. She has kosa in it. My family doesn't put kosa in it. It's like weird to put kosa in it. But basically, it's like a lasagna of fried vegetables. So it's like you fry the potatoes, you chop the potatoes into like French fries style, like not French fries, chip style, and you chop up the eggplant also into slices, and you fry them, and then you layer your potatoes. But the potato and then your eggplant, and your potato and then your eggplant, and potato and eggplant, and in these layers between you put the red sauce, tomato sauce, and it's just a tomato sauce, but it's a Libyan tomato sauce, so it has our spices also. And then at the end and the top, and you can like, I'm guessing I do like 3 layers. Some people do like 2. I just go a little bit overboard. And then in the top, you can fry like on like a pepper, you know, like the peppers, and you put the fried pepper on the top. Okay, that's part of it. Of course, we have harissa Libya, and that is just harissa. So spicy harissa. Libyans love their harissa and love to eat it, and it's super spicy. Yes, okay. So this is the other Jewish Libyan dish, haraimi. Haraimi is like fish, and it's fish with tomato sauce. Not tomato sauce, but it's like with tomatoes and onion and toom, like garlic. Oh, if you've noticed, we put no garlic in the soup. Do not put garlic in the soup. Okay, and it's like you eat it with your hands, and it has cumin and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, you eat it with your hands with the bread. Can you kind of see it? I think you guys can see it. This is another one I'm going to show you, but I'm going to check on the first. Yeah, so haraimi and batata batna are very. Okay, now it's like bubbling, like it's like on bubbles. So we're gonna add this. I think I might show you. Let me show you. This is you. No, since we've already done this, we're moving the camera thing, and it's okay. So see, boily. Orzo. I'm just gonna a little bit. I don't know how to explain this, but I think 2 pans. My hands are not that big. Let's find out for you later exactly how much I put. I might add a little bit more. I feel like I don't know. And yet again, we leave to simmer. Simmer away. It's on high heat, so it's like not so simmery, but we can just leave it to boil and simmer until the orzo is completely cooked. And then that's it. And then you can have the lemon on it, the little tiny display of lemons here that you can put on it. And you can put, yeah, as I said, the mint. One last thing, I think, before I bid you farewell, because I think I've overstayed my hour, is called Asban al-Shamsi. Oh, again, sorry, disclaimer. Asban al-Shamsi is the same as Jadid that I told you, and it's the intestines. And they also dry it, see? The same way. They chop it and then dry it. And I think it's really interesting because I had no idea about this. And my mother never made it, my grandmother never made it, no one ever made it. So I had no idea about it until I went to Libya last month. And I think it's really, really interesting the ways that they were really trying to conserve things for the whole of the season, for the whole of the year. And this is something that's quite old. So it's not something that people do newly, and people actually don't really do it anymore that much. You know, refrigerators and all, unfortunately, although it makes like beautiful food out of it. Okay, so I'm just gonna wait for this to end, and then, oh my God, it smells so good. Okay, and then I'm gonna serve it with the other one. This book, for example, so we saw the other book. This book is different. Maybe I could show you the one. This is a very important dish that's on the front. I'm gonna try to find one last recipe to show you while we wait for the soup. And if it's not done in a bit, I think it might take too long. So, okay, I can't find it. But this is called the zine. This is also a very important part, and it's made out of wheat flour, not white flour. And it's like you eat it also with your fingers, and you eat the vegetables and the tomato and the meat again with it. Okay, I'm gonna just check on the soup one last time. Okay, it still needs a done. So for the sake of this, and because the dish is still not done, let me just maybe show you a close-up of it bubbling away, and then I'll send you all an image. But this is a close-up of it bubbling. So you gotta wait for it to bubble away until it's completely done. The orzo is all cooked, and that way we're done. And you have a beautiful dish, and it's all good. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm gonna leave you a picture, and you can see how it's done and how the mint is put on it and the lemon. And thank you so much for sticking by me on this whole journey of making Libyan soup, or shorba hamra as my family call it, so red soup. And thank you, Lentil Space, and lots of love, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.